Well, we'll move on from the confusion and on to number 2.
Today, women have more advantages than men.
I can speak from a hiring standpoint when it comes to things like affirmative action, and there are certain roles that traditionally men and women have been able to serve in, and now women can basically do all of those things, right? Because we've had such a strong advocacy for equal representation in the workplace. Whereas, for example, you'll never find a man as a midwife nurse, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's why there are those differences.
Women in like the most important parts of society have an advantage. There's a lot of positions that men simply aren't getting hired at anymore because of the fact that they're a man. And it's not just in the workforce, it's also, I would say, it's a lot easier for a woman to find a relationship, even if she, says finding the right guy is so hard. It really isn't. But sometimes for a lot of guys, finding a girl at all is hard.
Just really quickly, I have seen this one, and he's actually the individual from watching that episode where I found out what incels were. And incels is basically involuntarily celibate, so pretty much like you can't get pussy.
Okay.
And yeah, I can see why now.
I mean, that comment says it all.
Yeah. Let's keep it moving.
If I have to consider what I wear before stepping out the house, because I don't want to draw some type of attention, I don't know how many other men have to consider, is this outfit going to be deemed safe for me? Any situation that I've experienced where I physically felt endangered simply because I don't want to give my number out. It's part of that entitlement for men. You're not entitled a conversation with me. You're not entitled to my number.
That aside, it's like, are you going to make one example of the entitlement of men when it comes to asking for your number be the all-encompassing thing that all men have a problem when it comes to approaching women?
Well, firstly, it's not just an example. It's not necessarily all men. I don't dislike men. I love sports, I play video games. I have bros, I hang out with dudes. We just want men to realize that if you have friends that are having locker room talk, as a man, as an ally, please say something to your friends.
Do you think repressing that is really the solution here, though? If it's in a healthy male space...
I don't think that's healthy. I think it's toxic in itself.
I mean, if you're making jokes and you're doing all of that...
Jokes that are harmful jokes are not healthy because they just lead to people normalizing things. People always say, oh, it's just a joke. But when someone else hears it, they don't realize how that resonates. And again, how that turns into violence. This is not an isolated situation. I'm only thinking of 3 off the top of my head because if I think of too many, I'm going to spiral
so
right now.
So what's the alternative? Men shouldn't talk about these things.
No, I think men can have a healthy dialogue. I don't think men have to be toxic in order to have a conversation. I know plenty of men that are able to have conversations about healthy, productive things, just like women are.
Well, it's not obviously something that I have personal experience with, but only 1% of all people on the death row are women in this country. So when women and men commit identical crimes, women are much more likely to, for example, escape the death penalty. And that's just plain sex-based discrimination.
That I agree on.
That's true. Look, I'm thinking about basic needs, around the globe, the women who don't even have proper sanitary products.
I mean, I have to agree. Just small things like a tax on a box of tampons. Do you think I choose to do this monthly? No, trust me. So why should I have to pay taxes when this is a medical necessity?
We're just dismissed. A lot of our symptoms, a lot of the things we report, especially women of color, but women across the board, are just treated a lot less equally.
Okay.
Wait, why didn't they zoom into that one girl in the end?
Yeah, I don't know. I was waiting to hear something from her, but
she spoke, but they didn't give her the name and I was like, wait. But I guess this was just a clip in the whole thing, so.
Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on what was being said there?
Well, there's a lot to unpack, so let me try to go backwards. The last thing they talked about was tampons and paying tax on tampons. I think what's crazy about that is that, I mean, I forgot what year that video came out, but they're, especially in California, they're trying to put tampons for free in like gender neutral or men's bathrooms because transitioning men that want to have a period want tampons, and they're giving these men tampons for free, and they're like, well, you can't deny us, and it's like, give me them for free then. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
like you want to get tampons, you want to be a woman, you want to stick it up your ass because that's the only hole you got, like, do it. I don't give a shit. But why do you get it for free though? So it's not, I'm not even arguing like the tax on the tampons, but it's like, I'm more pissed that they're giving like guys that are transitioning to women tampons because they feel left out. Like, shut up and give me tampons for free. That's crazy. Also, I think those women didn't like necessarily rub me the wrong way in the sense that I think today's modern feminists don't know what feminism is, and all they want to do is crush men, and they want superiority, and I think that's wrong. I think an actual true feminist is someone who wants equality. So the prompt was what? That women have more advantages, right?
Than men, yeah.
Okay. And the men, when they came out, were only talking about like, oh, in the workplace, they're getting hired more. And it's like, if that's statistically true, that's a problem that we as a society constantly do. We overcompensate because during the BLM, they only hired ethnic and black people, and they stopped hiring, everyone else because they wanted to be more inclusive and have more diversity and blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
whenever that video came out, it's probably when women were like, yeah, we want the same rights. And then men in like government are like, yeah, you can have the same rights, but like rights for women, like, yeah, you can work at the same jobs but get paid less. And that's always like a topic, and men are like, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. And now let's talk about construction workers, right? Because the woman that's waving the flag, I agree, should not be getting paid the same hourly as the man pouring the concrete, working the forklift, climbing on the scaffold. Like, I get that. But if we're talking, let's say, not like so much a blue collar hands-on job, but let's say just for the sake of it, optometry, why would a male optometrist get paid $20K plus more annually than a female optometrist? No reason. No, seriously, what's the reason? It's not.
Yeah.
If anything, women have smaller fingers and, don't poke you in the eye when they're close and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, that's a weird example, but like, let's talk about it, right? Why are they getting paid less? And there's no answer. And the answer is what? That like, oh, and now everyone's upset that like there's more women getting hired and there's more women going to college. Like, talk to your men then, because they're the ones not going to college. It's not that they're not getting approved. And maybe it's not even that they're not getting hired. They're not applying. You know what I'm saying? Or they think that they should just get the job because whatever, and they're not. Their resume looks like ass. So it has nothing to do with they're only hiring women because she's a woman. Now, just really quickly, when the girl was like, I shouldn't have to watch what I wear to go outside, like, okay, I get that. But at the same time, if you dress conservatively anyway, like, you wouldn't have to necessarily worry about that. But there are men that stay just, like, being inappropriate no matter what you wear. Like, I've gotten, like, cackled in like sweatpants and a winter coat while I was shoveling snow. And who knows, his freaky deaky niche might have been snow shoveling and not my clothes. But like, you know what I'm saying? You could not, the only reason you could tell I was a female was probably because of the pile of snow that I was shoveling. It was so small. Like, you know what I mean? There's no way you would have known. So for you to cackle at that, like, something's wrong with you. But the point is, she was like, well, if I leave the house, I have to always make sure that I'm not being too well, yeah, you shouldn't be dressing like a hoe all the time anyway. And then, but then again, you should be able to go to a club and dress cute, not like a whole whore, but like dress cute and not have to worry about somebody roofing your drink or, smacking you over the head and raping you like a caveman because he's an incel and can't get it himself, as you mentioned before. Like, I mean,
Yeah. What you said makes me think of that Dave Chappelle joke where he was like, like women are like, oh, just because I dress this way doesn't mean you should treat me this way. And he's like, fine. He's like, but understand that's confusing. He's like, that's like me, Dave Chappelle, the comedian. If I decide to dress up as an officer and then you run up to me like on the street and like, oh, officer, help, this guy's trying to touch me. And then you're just like, just because I'm dressed this way doesn't mean I am this way. And he's like, understand, like, we're not saying you are, but you are wearing a whore's uniform. And I know that's kind of like extreme example, but
not to argue, but to just like play devil's advocate and bring up the other side. The fallacy is women are dressing cute so that the right man hits on them. So you ain't it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm sorry, but like we're dressing like that so that the right man, and that's like wrong of women. I get that, but like, it's how do you? This is a slippery slope now because I don't want to say you can't meet your husband unless you're dressed like a slut. That's not what I'm trying to say. But
thank God.
Girls are out there and they go to clubs, right? If they're like, ew, get away from me. And there's like, well, you at the club. Like, yeah, but you're not the only guy here. So like.
All right. I'm also going to play devil's advocate just because of the scenario that you're bringing up. Women, just saying, if you're looking for a husband, you're not going to find him at the club. Just look elsewhere.
You're not listening to what I'm saying, though.
I was just playing devil's advocate. I was just playing on
stand, whatever the fuck you want to call it. The point is that's not you. So keep it moving because maybe you can find another girl that it is you. But what I'm saying is when girls dress like that or they look good, it's not for you. It's either for themselves because like of course guys too they want to look good. You don't.
But
leave the house without looking in the mirror.
I understand what you're saying. But I understand that's also, like, confusing because I understand what you're saying. Like, oh, it's not you.
It's not confusing, though, because if I'm dressed, like, hella cute.
Hear me out. It's confusing because you know the man that you're trying to attract. The men don't know that they're the guy or not the guy.
So when he comes up to me and I
the majority of men,
there's no reason for you to fucking rate me.
But here's the thing. Like, with the verbiage, like, if anyone's going to watch this, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm not dressing for you. I'm dressing for the right guy. There's no guy's going to think he's the right guy. So no guy's going to approach you.
Yes, but my point is
only the wrong guys will approach you.
You can't get upset and you can't, drug her drink or literally pull her into an alley because... All right,
we're not talking about Diddy right now.
But we are because Diddy's not the only one that does that. There's a lot
of
men.
I know.
There's a lot of stories. I personally know
I am not
girls.
I am not downplaying it. I'm just going on this specific example. I'm not going on like tangent.
Okay,
I'm just
but on
saying
this specific example,
that like
it sounds like you're taking it personally, and I'm just telling you.
I'm not taking it personal because I'm saying I know as a guy that a lot of the guys who are decent men will not approach a woman. The men who usually approach women are the dirtbags. There's always the loudest one in the room.
But
it's always the one who doesn't care.
Women. That's a problem with women. The fallacy is, like I said, they're going to dress cute for the right man. And if someone they'll let a dozen guys come up to them. It's almost like The Bachelor.
Just so I'm clear. Did you say they're dressing for the right man, or are they dressing to attract the right man? Because the verbiage in the first statement, that's why I want clarity, is like, if you're dressing for the right man, like your man, like, okay, then you're already in a relationship, so you're dressing cute for your man. But if you're going to the club to hopefully attract the right guy, so I'm just trying to find out the distinction. Is that what you're saying it is? Like, you're dressing up cute to hopefully attract the right guy?
Well, I can't speak for anyone but myself, but hopefully...
I'm just asking for clarity. That's all I'm doing.
Then let me answer.
Go ahead.
I can't speak for any woman but myself. But I would hope that, including myself, if I wouldn't go to a club anyway. But I'm saying if I were to go out, I would dress cute for my man if I had one, right? And then I would look cute for him. Now, cute versus like whorish, there's a fine line, and I don't think dressing like a whore is ever cute. But there are always going to be other men that are going to look at me or maybe approach me if my man goes to the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. Now, if I'm single and I'm going out, again, not to a club because that's not my personal choice, and I'm dressing cute, it's not that I'm looking for, like, the next person to marry, but, like, I'm not going to give somebody my time that's, like, let's say, shorter than me, smells like sewer, you know what I'm saying, missing a tooth, like with a Long Island iced tea in his hand. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not everyone, but I'm just saying, like,
with an Ed Hardy t-shirt.
Yeah, that's just not the right man for me. And that could mean like for company for the rest of the night or for a long-term relationship, whatever. So in general, most girls, that mentality is the same. But there are girls for sure where the fallacy lies, where they be dressing like complete hoes and then they're expecting like Prince Charming to come out. But see, the thing is, like you were trying to say, Prince Charming is literally not going to go up to a hoe. He wants a princess. But
he's also not going to be in the club either, because there's already a certain stigma with women that go to clubs.
okay, but here we are back at the club when I just said I wouldn't even go to a club. So we're taking
I know. I'm just
the club
saying.
out.
I'm just saying.
So we're taking the club out. I'm going to a cafe now. So girls that go to cafes, because
Go to the library.
I just
Read
heard
a
a
book.
story about this woman that went to a 4-year-old's birthday party, and she was wearing a complete like lace but see-through dress with nothing underneath. And the mother approached her and was like, your dress is like causing some like distraction. Do you mind changing? Like you can use my clothes. Meanwhile, no one else at this party is just like that. And the girl got mad and she was like, you can't tell me what to wear. She goes, I never know when I'm going to meet my husband. So I want to look good. So fuck off, you know, and they fought.
Like actual fist fight?
No, like they screamed at each other and then
okay,
it went to Facebook, whatever. This is a true story. But anyway, that example obviously is a worse one, because I'm not gonna sit here and represent her and be like, oh yeah, what she did was fine. Like I don't agree with that either. But you know, if we're talking, when I say most women, I would hope and I think that they would think like I do, but that's not necessarily the case. So anyway, I wouldn't go to a club. I'm too old. Secondly, I would never dress like a whore. Maybe I had in the past, and if you have some receipts, good for you. That might have been something that happened in the past, but I'm not doing that anymore.
Are you talking about me? What the fuck?
I'm talking to everyone, because every time I say something, you got something to say. But
I just asked for clarification. That's it.
okay. So I don't think when she was like, I have to watch what I wear before I go outside, like, yes, to an extent, but not really. Because you don't need to dress like a slut. But again, there are creepy men, and not you, Chris, so relax. There are creepy men that will come up and hit on you for no reason.
Hold on. I just want to make this very clear. Everyone who watches this episode, when you watch this, you tell me, be very honest in the comment section. Did I ever take anything personal or get emotional? I was just asking questions. I just want to make that clear. Comment that. Continue.
Don't tell them to comment it. Ask them, because we want to know. When I say something,
that's right.
Does Chris take it like to the next level where he's like, no, guys, don't do that? And I'm like, I'm not talking about you. Relax.
But I was never talking about me. I was asking questions. But continue. Go ahead, because it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Well, that was my point. So I didn't necessarily agree with her. But again, I forgot what year that came out. But feminists these days don't know what they're talking about. But those women seemed like they mostly were, I would agree with them. For the most part.
Okay, so the 2 points that I want to go back to with earlier when she was talking about as far as like, well, I think it was the Asian dude that was talking about women in the workplace and them having equal opportunity, and just like the same thing you were saying with the race hiring where, oh, someone who's white who's just as qualified will be overlooked for someone who's black just so they can have more black people, just more diversity in the workplace. In my job where I worked at, I had a female branch manager. And I'm not saying it's the case everywhere, but I did see that discrimination. The branch manager before her was a male, and he was making like $150,000 a year. Then he left, and she got promoted to the next branch manager. And they never bumped up her pay. They kept her pay at the same thing as where she was when she was just a supervisor.
Damn.
And she kept chasing them for it. And they kept like just stringing the carrot. Oh yeah, we're gonna get to it. And she was there for a year, and they never bumped up the pay to be 6 figures. Yeah, which I thought was like really fucked up.
That's crazy.
Secondly, the other thing that the Asian guy was saying, which I don't necessarily agree with, because he was saying like, like locker room talk. He's like, oh, so should they just repress those emotions?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And to me, I'm like, me personally, I don't have those kind of conversations, even with my closest friends. Like, I just feel like it's super disrespectful. Like, going back to that same example, I remember that manager that I had, she came in and she was dealing with something personally. So when she came into the meeting, you could tell it was pretty obvious on her face that she was like flustered about something. But some of the guys in the room were like, oh, she must be on her period. And then like looked at some of the other guys to kind of co-sign like, oh yeah, that's funny, women, and I was just like, that's crazy. Like, that's like super rude to say that about somebody. And to me, it just made me think about that locker room talk. Like, even if in private, if somebody says something wrong or that's kind of wild, like, you need to check them. And not check them because you're like, oh, I hope women see me like I'm a nice guy. Like, no, like, check them because it's wrong and it's not the right thing to do. Like, we all have mothers, right? Like, I don't know how else anyone else got onto this planet, so we all have moms, and some of us have sisters, aunts, cousins. Like, would you really want other men talking about those people, like your sisters or other people, in that way? Like, would you be okay with it? Well, like, everybody else is that as well. So it's like, that's kind of how I always see it. Just like, look, like, someone is always someone's mother, daughter, cousin, or sister. So it's like, view it like that. So I didn't really agree with that. Like, oh, it's just locker room talk. I'm like, okay, like, and one thing leads to another, and it's like, come on, like we have to be able to check ourselves on that. It can't just be like, oh, as long as it's safe in the locker room, we could talk all crazy stuff. Like, I don't know. I just didn't agree with that, but those are my 2 cents, just based on experiences of things that I've seen and kind of what he's doing. Because me personally, I find it also weird when I'll talk to certain men and like in the middle of conversation, they'll just stop everything they're doing to like gaze at a woman. Like, oh, damn, look at her. She got a fat booty or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, bro, like, relax. Like, you never seen a woman before? Like, chill. But it's like, they're like hormones. They can't control them. But
well, it's no secret that a lot of men don't have emotional maturity. But yeah, I forgot when that Asian guy said that. It was I was thinking literally like, tell me you're a douchebag without telling me you're a douchebag.
Yeah, it was something about his expressions too that kind of told me the same, because he looked like he said it, and then you could see like, maybe I could be wrong or reading it too, but it looked like he had regret. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Like, I should have like taken that back.
I didn't peep that on his face, but who knows?
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the last one.
The other side as uneducated.
Ooh.
They think you're uneducated.
I'm running for this.
Well,
all right, these are all the flat earthers.
And they're following quite a bit of the university system, what we call scientism.
Right, scientism.
Obviously, is the belief in what's written, where we tend to be exploring in the field with physical properties, not theories of any kind. We're using actual measurements that are calculated not by our guidelines, but the guidelines of science as we know it. I can only hope they're uneducated as opposed to disingenuous.
Well, that's the other thing too, because we know that it was on a large scale, the government has been disingenuous, and they're pushing a narrative, right? So it's hard for us. I mean, I'm sure that you've met people too. It's like, look, are you haven't looked into it yet, or are you a shill? Are you part of a disinformation campaign?
I don't think you guys are uneducated. I think you're wrongly educated.
I think the problem with what I've seen in the flat earth crowd is that it's not that they're undereducated, but they, instead of looking at evidence and letting the evidence guide to where the ultimate conclusion is, they start with a conclusion and then they try to cherry pick evidence to support their pre-drawn conclusion. They cast away all the bits of evidence that actually is contrary to their beliefs.
I think that you're very well educated, as well as you are, Jim.
But, certainly Ali is. He's probably got the best education of all of us.
Exactly, and he paid for it too. But more and more professionals are coming on board. They're starting to question their reality. So the thing of it is once you start to really take a hard look at the evidence, and you are unafraid of just standing for the truth wherever that may lead you, then people end up becoming flat earthers.
The shortest one, the last one.
Yeah, all right. What do you think about the whole flat earther thing? Where do you stand on that? Because I've heard conspiracies on it. I think it's kind of just nonsense, but
Well, before I get into that, I'm just confused why the guy in the blue, he was a flat earther. He came out, right? And he was like, yeah, scientists are uneducated. And then when the scientist sat down, he literally said, I don't think you're uneducated. So what? And it's crazy how the
Nice.
scientists were like, I don't think you're uneducated. I think you're wrongly educated. I was like,
just misinformed.
yeah. I don't know. I think the flat earth theory is like kind of cool, like Narnia or Harry Potter. Like it's like interesting to think about if we lived in like a firmament or a dome and it was like whatever, but like it also just doesn't really make sense. And it also sort of keeps that like egotistical idea that like the rest of the universe revolves around us, or like it only exists for us instead of us being like a part of it. But also, if you like just think about it, and whatever, because the scientist was right. Like, if you have a conclusion and you look for evidence to go backwards, like that totally
To
makes sense.
support your conclusion, yeah.
Even if you do that, like, it's really hard for me to honestly believe that, like, and it's not just the government. Every organization, right, is doing this thing about a globe. Kiwi agrees. That was like a howl and a half, a bark and a howl. Kiwi, stop. Like, just for example, a stupid example, right? When you're on an airplane and they're like, well, if you're in California and you fly to Japan, it's like that's obvious because that's around the globe. And then people, if they're flat earth, they'd be like, well, actually, if it's flat, then you should be able to fly, or it should take, like more than 22 hours because you're going from one side of the flat. It just doesn't make any sense. And even if you mathed it and you made it sense, it's just the theory behind it is that all these organizations are in on this joke. Like, there's not a single whistleblower, not a single person that's like, yeah, because they're making like round globes for schools. They're making like 3D or like, and I'm not saying like the pictures from outer space. Like, if you want to say those are doctored, fine. But like, again, with the airplanes, you know how you could like track your flight and it's a globe. There's no way that like all those competing airlines just alone have the same globe. You know what I'm saying? With the same shapes and the same time zones and the same, And the time zone thing is also another thing because we're talking about where the sun like goes, and like the time zone lines are crazy because especially the whole country of China, as big as it is on the same time zone. So it's like we can just make up the rules as we want here. But if it was flat, then the time zones wouldn't necessarily like come in a circle. Does that make sense? Because there's no circle; it's flat.
Yeah, like I just think it's kind of like a wild or asinine assumption because it's like you really think we're just like a flying pizza pan like in space, like just this flat circle. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Like just like looking at it from gravity and like you said, like given the time zones,
it's a very
like
lazy way to be like, well, it's down, so the whole place is like this because gravity's in here, and it's just like what?
Yeah, and we can visibly see like other planets. Like we could see the moon and stuff. So it's like you tell me everything is just like flat cut out circles just floating in the sky. Like what is this, Blue's Clues? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like
well, I think they're trying to say that like whatever's out of the dome or the atmosphere is like placed there for us. But again, that's so egotistical to be like all these stars are in that way so that we see a Pegasus, so that we see Orion's belt, so that we see this and that. You know what I mean? It doesn't really make any sense.
I don't know. I've never really believed in flat earthers. I believe the Earth is a globe.
Yeah,
it's a
but
sphere,
along with the airplane thing where there's like a globe and you can track where the plane is, you know those GoPro cameras that go like up here and whatever, and they show the whole like fisheye view and it's like literally round? Again, like even if that was doctored, how are all these companies around literally the globe making all this stuff and being on the same page about it, and no one's, you know what I'm saying, like There's no way one person made that decision and they're like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And everyone else is like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm totally blind and stupid. I don't know. I'm just going to do this because you say so. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's 8 billion people on Earth. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Just
like
mathematically.
I've heard some people say, and maybe you would know the numbers better than I do, or maybe not. But they say like every 3,000 or 300 feet or whatever, like there's a curvature in the Earth. So if you're looking at something in the distance, after a certain amount of miles, you wouldn't be able to see it because it's going to be on
It dips
the curve.
below the horizon, yeah.
Exactly. And I've had people tell me that like live in upper town Manhattan. If you look across the river, you can still see Jersey and everything from a distance. So like I shouldn't be able to see that stuff, if the globe is on the curve, because that's miles away from me. Like, why can I see these things? And that's kind of their reason for believing why it's a flat Earth surface, like that. The fact that you can still see that in the distance.
That's obviously very ignorant, but also like your vision. So like, how much do you trust your vision? But again, 2020 is what we deemed as perfect. I don't think that I can see like naked eye like 3,000 feet in front of me. Especially if it's a cloudy day and foggy. There's obviously way less visibility. So like, I don't know. It's just weird for you to be like, oh well, I saw a building and it was supposed to be this many miles away, so that means it's flat. It's like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because for me, it's like, yeah, like, okay, you can see the top of the building, but can you see the base of that building?
Yeah, there have been several like debunked where like boats will go away from you and they literally like sink away, like literally under the water.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so that theory also doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But I think flat or round Earth, I think what's more wild about that prompt was that, I think the other party is uneducated, and all the flat earthers came out and all the scientists were like humble and they were like, no, I don't think you're stupid. And the flat earthers were like, meh, like.
Yeah,
telling.
It's funny because like it's very telling about that. It's true what you said, because usually I'll notice like intelligent people are usually more humble because they realize they don't know anything. Like the more they find out, the more they know they don't know. So they're more humble, and then it's usually the people who are actually dumb who think they know everything. Oh no, I know it. This is the fact. This is true.
I think that was also an earlier prompt. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, like I even going back to like the fat men and fit men, like the one comment even said it, like the guy, the really buff dude in the yellow tank top, like he was very humble, like, and was very like observant. Well, where Myron and the other dude was just like, nah, it's just this. And meanwhile, the biggest, most buffest dude in the room was the most humblest one. Like, he's obviously put in the most work out of all of y'all.
Yeah,
like,
he was huge.
Yeah, like he used to do, like when I used to go to the gym, who was like probably the biggest dude in the gym. And in my experience, when I was working out, that like, yeah, usually the big buff dudes are usually the kindest people. They're usually always willing to help with one another. They're never like egotistical. So yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting, just how like that kind of went from both sides, as far as like the scientists and the flat earthers, and then the fit men and the fat men. So yeah, it's very telling, I guess, of just like human psychology or just people in general.
It's interesting too how I think like majority of the people, like obviously including us, initially we have like an opinion and it's very clear, but then if we start talking about it, then it starts blurring the lines very quickly, actually. And then they didn't even do that, but I think I noticed that we did. We would be like, well, the way this question is worded is very important. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I think Jubilee, I just want to say thank y'all for making these videos. I definitely think they're interesting think pieces and conversations.
Please don't
You
have
know,
Myron
I like
on
hearing the
your show
other
ever
point
again.
of views.
Thank you very much.
Well, that too, yeah. But I'm definitely interested to hear different viewpoints, because especially on topics I'm not really informed on, like it helps to inform me to hear from the other side. You know, I think sometimes we live in a vacuum and we only see things from our perspective, and then we're closed-minded. So me, I've always been like, no, I want to take in information from a viewpoint of life that I'm not experiencing, because it's something I'll never consider. So yeah, I want to appreciate Jubilee for that. Hope you guys enjoyed our commentary on this. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts, what you think of some of the stuff. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with some of our comments? You know, just let us know, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know, Alexa, did you enjoy this? Because you never watched Jubilee, so this is kind of a first for you.
Yeah, I only watched what you send me. I mean, I wasn't like, wow, this is great. I'm gonna go look up Jubilee now. Like, no, sorry.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, it was interesting, and I do think, like you just mentioned, and I mentioned during the Trump and immigration middle grounds, where we stopped having tough conversations, and that stunted us, I think, as a society. And I think we need to sort of try to bring those back slowly. Not to create controversy or, whatever, but there are now so many viewpoints. We've branched out again in 1,000 ways, and we're just becoming more and more divided and just less and less like loving each other.
Yeah. Well, and I agree. I think people need to be able to have tough conversations, and we need to have them. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of people lack the emotional maturity to be able to do so.
You don't think
I
they
see
lack
a lot of
it?
people. No, I think they do.
Oh.
I think a lot of people don't have the EQ or the emotional maturity to have those conversations because
But that's what I'm
they
saying.
get emotionally compromised.
Just
and
like
then
the
they're
kids that were
"Ugh."
beat their whole lives and they don't know anything else but that. Like, these people never had to have these tough conversations, so they're not going to learn now. But again, as a society, we've destroyed our future with that.
Well, guys, let us know if you want to see us do more things like this, or this is just a one-off. I wanted to try something different. I thought Alexia's perspective on it would be interesting
Was it?
because I thought so. Just because some of the subjects that they talked about in these top moments have been subjects of discussion that Alexia and I have had privately, just talking on the phone or whatever. So seeing this and having this kind of dialogue, I thought was interesting, and just I wanted to get her take, but also see her reactions to some of the wild shit some of these people said as well, especially the Satanists. That was crazy to me.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, my dog is barking, by the way.
that's all right. I guess Kiwi is trying to say some things about her opinions on the middle ground.
I think
as well,
Kiwi's
but
trying to tell me that this episode needs to wrap up.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. You could follow me and find all my stuff at thisisceo.com.
Thanks again so much for clicking that play button. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube Behind the Struggle, my IG at Lexia_Lou, and until it gets banned, TikTok is a sexia.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that was a thing. All right, y'all. Peace.
Bye.